Everyone's talking about how James Carville had his own Tucker Carlson moment, but I think they're missing the bigger picture here. In case you don't know what I'm talking about, earlier in the week, Tucker Carlson said that he is done with the GOP. That's right, he's leaving the Republican Party, and he is oh so done with President Trump. In fact, he even cursed out Trump and called him the B word. Well, similarly, James Carville said, I am done with the Democrat Party. This is no longer my party. In fact, I don't want to be associated with socialists and communists, the same ones who won their primaries in New York City. But again, I think this is very different from the situation with Tucker Carlson, and I think it's a lot darker than it appears. Listen closely to what James Carville said, and let's see if we pick up on the same things here.
Mr. Valiant, the New York Times reported, and I have the quote right here, I'll get to it. She is against past our fall of views. She has attacked interracial relationships in the American flag. Lady, I ain't in the same party as you. I'm sorry. I just not. And I actually do think it's time for Democrats to talk the S word, schism. I really do. Everybody's always said, no, we're coalition, we're big tent. And there's just some shit that I can't be in the same tent with. But and understand, these people do not like Democrats. Not only are they not Democrats, they wish Democrats poorly. So I just cannot. Maybe there's a way that you can say to, I guess Mandami is the leader of it, is, you insist that, try to insist that the people that run under your banner run as a democratic socialist and don't use the Democratic Party as your guideline, and let's negotiate the terms of a schism here. Maybe we can part under some kind of advantageous terms for both of us. But I'm done. I'm not in that political party. I am totally comfortable in a political party that spends time questioning the policies of the government of Israel. In fact, I'm enthusiastic about that. I don't want to be in a political party that denies the right of the state of Israel to exist. That's just not. I just can't do that. I'm sorry. It's just not doable.
They are a great gift to Donald Trump.
Yeah, in case there was any doubt, the Democrats are in full-blown crisis mode. This is a flat-out civil war within their party. If someone as high up, as legendary as James Carville is talking about leaving the Democrat Party, you know that they have bigger problems than the midterms right around the corner. Again, though, I think this is very different from Tucker Carlson. What Tucker was saying was, look, I don't trust Republicans, I don't trust Democrats, I guess I'm more of an independent. I'm just going to stay in whatever lane that I am. But what James Carville did was he accidentally admitted that he's the one who's been kicked out of his own party. He never once said we need to purge the radicals from the Democrat Party. I mean, he never even came close to that. He could have said we need to have a debate. We need to have an argument, a conversation about the future of the Democrat Party, what we believe in, our platform. A man who believed in his party would have said that, but he never once said it. Instead, he's the one who's on the outs. That's not a battle cry, that's a concession speech. Keep in mind, James Carville, this is the guy who wrote, "It's the economy, stupid." He ran Bill Clinton's war room. He's the one who's been lecturing Democrats for years, if not decades, on how to win elections. And now he's been reduced to asking for the terms of his own surrender, for his own departure from the Democrat Party. How embarrassing is that? Look, when the landlord is talking about the negotiations of his move-out date, it's really clear who's in charge here. It's not James Carville. It's no longer his party. It's the radical party of Zoran Mamdani, AOC, and all these communists and socialists, literally. They are openly admitting it, who won their primaries in New York City. And the worst part in all of this is that it's not unexpected. This wasn't a surprise. This takeover was not hostile. It was a surrender. It was an invitation by the Democrat Party. Think about it. They're the ones for years saying, we're a big tent party. We're all about inclusion. We're all about diversity. In fact, we can peacefully coexist. And so they invited in all these people with whom they cannot actually coexist. We all know that the people that they invited in, when you take a look at some of these extremist religions, they don't assimilate. Instead, they divide and conquer. They're all about propagating their own beliefs, yeah, at the expense of Western civilization. And it's not just even a religious thing, it's a political thing. The socialists and the communists, that's what they do. They destroy. And in fact, the co-chair of DSA, Democrat Socialists of America, he is saying that we're not part of the Democrat Party. We're actually using and abusing the Democrat Party to further our own goals. Again, they're not hiding this. This isn't in the closet. They are flat out telling us to our faces what they're doing.
Candidates run as Democrats. We're on the Democratic Party ballot line. We contest the primaries. And when they're in the legislature, they're part of the Democratic Party caucus. But we don't agree with the way the Democratic Party establishment organizes or runs its party apparatus, and so we try to build independence by focusing on volunteer-led movement. We think that everyone should be able to be trained and to become someone who can participate in the political process, and we don't really think that Democratic Party campaigns in the establishment are run that way. And I think you really see that difference in the races like we're having tonight. And I think in terms of the agenda, there's a problem in the Democratic Party where they are funded by billionaire donors, and at the same time, they're trying to represent the working class. And in our opinion, you have to choose between the billionaire class and the working class. It's just impossible to satisfy all of them.
So yeah, forget about a wolf in sheep's clothing. It's just a wolf. They're not even hiding it. They are proudly standing at the gate. And the sad part is they didn't take over the party violently. They were given the keys by Democrat Party leadership. Yeah, they are in the pen because of the weaklings who refused to say no to the radical part of the base. Oh, come on in. We're a big tent party. We're all about inclusion. We're all about diversity. Let's peacefully coexist. And now they're being kicked out of their own party. A little too late for you to realize that, James Carville. And that's why it's so dangerous that the Democrats clearly haven't learned their lessons. Even today, they're refusing to denounce the socialists and communists. You have Elizabeth Warren. Oh, I've never heard of her. I don't know who she is. BS. Or you have someone supposedly moderate like Josh Shapiro saying, well, we need to have a debate. We need to have a conversation about the future of the Democrat Party. Since when did you negotiate with extremists? Since when did you think you could reason with them? The only person who's been moderately normal on this is John Fetterman. And look, I get he votes with the Democrats majority of the time, but at least he is calling out these radicals for what they are. Radical. And it's not just the lack of Washington leadership. It's actually the responsibility of the mainstream media. And on CBS, this is what infuriates me the most, is that the media is complicit in all of this. On CBS, one of the hosts was trying to downplay all of this. He was whitewashing communism and socialism as if we're too dumb to pick up on what he's actually doing. Talk about a useful idiot.
Those primaries.
The rhetoric around socialism tends to sometimes scare a lot of people. These people who are supporting some of these policies, they're doing it within a democratic constitutional system. They're not advocating for governments based on one party rule or a centralized state ownership of the economy or suppression of political opposition or even limits on civil liberties. So could that translate the things that they advocate? Perhaps not what you mentioned earlier, but some of those other things that we talked about, greater public investment, expanded child care. Is that something that could resonate across the country?
Dude, Chevalier literally called for the overthrow, the destruction of Western civilization. Guess what? That, by definition, means the destruction of the United States of America. Who cares whether or not she's doing it the proper way within a democratic system? Again, you cannot coexist with people who say they want to destroy you. It's similar to the DSA using the Democrat Party to further their goal. They are just useful idiots being used by extremists. This is why people have been railing against the mainstream media for decades. They've helped usher in the very people who wish to destroy us and, by extension, destroy them. Well, the media is so predictable that Chevalier was able to manipulate MS Now on live TV. They were asking her, hey, what do you think about being called a communist, being called a socialist? And the difference is, right, when President Trump goes on TV, the media, they argue with him, right? They fact check him, they interrupt him. He's never able to get a word in. Yet she's able to go on TV and flat out ignore the basic question. She refuses to answer it, and zero pushback from the host. Makes you wonder, is this what they wanted all along?
Delegation, and you're going to appear in all sorts of people's ads.
all sorts of Republicans' ads to say, this is what you're going to get if you vote for the Democrats, a communist.
You know, I think that framing is one that I've been very proud to be able to say I don't respond to, one in which I have been very intentional to say I won't be reactive. We are presenting a vision of what we're fighting for, and I think for far too long we have had politics that is reactive to what Republicans are doing. What we need is Democrats who are actually going to present a positive vision, one that sets the tone for what we should be talking about, which is the issue of affordability, which is the issue of how our budgets are moral documents. If we say that we want to invest in working people in this country, then we need to do that, and our budgets need to reflect that. If we say that we value...
It's simple. The reason she cannot address the accusation of being a communist is because she is one. Let's say someone in the media asked President Trump, "Sir, are you a racist?" And he said, "Oh, I'm not going to respond." How do you think the media would respond? How do you think the Democrats and independents would respond? "Oh, President Trump, what do you think about the KKK?" He's been asked to denounce white supremacy so many times, and he has, obviously, so many times. Yet this woman, this candidate in New York, she can't say whether or not she's a communist. She can't say what she actually believes. Dude, I thought that was the point of a campaign, to answer questions, to talk about your point of view, to see if other people believe in what you believe, so therefore they would vote for you. No, she's refusing to do all of that. "Oh, it's beneath me. I'm not even going to address it." No, we all know why she's not going to address it, because it would reveal the monster she really is. Now, look, I know this all seems dark, but there is good news. But before we get to that, I would like to acknowledge the members of today's Governor's Club. They are Jeremy 2001 Happy, Dean Berger, RL 1401 Bob, always great to see you, Peach Street Squarfett, NRA 1776 Heston, Jenny Rankin, McTrim, Don Frank, and Glenn Kenny. These are people who give tips and super thanks to the channel. I'm glad that you enjoy it, and I'm glad that you're here. Well, the good news in all of this is that turnout in New York City was actually really, really low. So halfway through the day, only 367,000 people voted. And look, obviously it was halfway through the day, but still, that was just 10% of the 3.5 million registered Democrats in New York City. This was not even half. When all was said and done, not even half of the city voted compared to however many voted for Zoran Mamdani. And that was only 30%. So turnout in all of this was really low. All of that to say, these people can be beaten as long as sane, ordinary Americans go out to the polls. And the difference here, the reason why I'm not worried in the big picture, the grand scheme of things, is because this takeover of the Democrat Party, like I've said this entire video, it was invited by Democrat leadership. They refused to say no. They handed the keys over to these extremists, and now they've taken over. I don't see the same thing happening to the Republican Party. I believe, look, it's sad that it's gotten as far as it's gotten with the Democrats, but I think that's as far as it's going to get, hopefully, as long as people wake up, pay attention, and as long as there aren't other nefarious forces doing just dirty work here. As always, all of this is just my analysis and commentary. That's what's happening in the world of politics from my point of view, and I would love to hear from you. So how worried are you about these extremists winning their primaries this past Tuesday? Are you worried it's going to lurch the Democrat Party further to the left, or do you think this is just a blip on the radar and everything will work itself out in the long run? Let me know your thoughts, how you're feeling about everything down in the comments below. If you haven't already, please be sure to leave me a thumbs up. I know it's a simple thing to ask for, but it really does help me reach more viewers like you in the algorithm. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos.